Come on. Get.
Do you want to talk about a video game? FUMES is an arcade-style car combat game that comes to us by way of the aptly named Polish quartet FUMES team. The majority of the team are industry vets of Poland's thriving games industry, having worked on projects like Superhot and Frostpunk, both of which are delightful times. The Steam page puts it best. No bull scrap, just you, your car, and pure fun, like in the old days. The old days they are referring to is the golden age of the vehicular combat genre. Think games like Twisted Metal, Vigilante 8, Cell Damage, and many more. It's a diverse genre that used to be really popular, primarily on the PS1, N64, and then the PS2. So most of its successful run being in the mid-90s well up until the middle of the 2000s. It has attempted to have a few comebacks here and there, but nothing's really stuck for one reason or another. As is the fate with so many other older genres, the conventions established in the car combat games would be assimilated into broader genres. But with the ever-changing landscape of indie games, we've been able to see these niche, specialized genres return slowly, but surely. We play as an enigmatic driver roaming the nameless wasteland in search of scrap and chaos. And that's pretty much all there is for setup. Actually, in a surreal twist, however, we aren't actually a human driver, but rather some kind of sentient purple fume. Probably where they got the name from. This is never fully explored, but it does reveal a much more supernatural twist than one might expect. There's no real narrative arc to chew on here. You drive around and you blow shit up. The store page was not lying when it said no bull scrap. FUMES is an incredibly lean game, for better or for worse. That does raise the question. Does a game that's primary objective is to blow shit up really need that much of a story? Well, I would err on the side of no, not really. It is a nice addition if the developers go the extra mile, and FUMES' team is upfront about the lack of a narrative. Now, this may come as a surprise to you, but FUMES is undoubtedly inspired by Mad Max, but there's no real way to know for sure. The post-apocalyptic adventures of the Road Warrior have played a substantial role in video games, both big and small, direct and indirect. FUMES has elected to go big and direct. You're practically driving over references like speed bumps here. It does pull heavily from other inspirations too, even from some you might not consider immediately. It's a remarkably inspired game despite its svelte presentation. FUMES is an early access game, so like with White Knuckle, your experience may differ depending on when exactly you play this. As is always the case with early access, transparency and communication are key. Fortunately, FUMES' team has made it clear what their intentions are with a handy-dandy roadmap. They have standard stuff like expanded activities or arsenals, but they've even made some room for some fun stuff like modding support and online co-op. As of right now, however, FUMES serves as more of an elaborate vertical slice of its core gameplay loop and mechanics, and fortunately, bless these developers, there is a demo available if you want to take it for a test drive. Visually, FUMES looks great. Generally, car games go for higher-end, realistic fidelity, but FUMES prefers something more abstract. As such, it sports a charming stylized look as opposed to... It is firmly inspirited by PS1-era fidelity, and they get a lot of mileage out of it. Every texture sports delightfully compressed, low-resolution crunch that you could sit and count every single pixel. Models are equally low poly, so the bulk of the detail comes from the sublime texture work. There's also a handful of visual filters to play with if you want that extra nostalgic edge. They pair nicely with the addition of a photo mode, which I'm always happy to see included. While it does try to keep it authentic, it incorporates a lot of modern technology. Just because they're invoking the aesthetics of yesteryear doesn't mean they're cavemen. There's tons of nice details like dust clouds, flames, dynamic lighting, even some weather effects crop up here and there. The kind of particle effects that just weren't possible on older hardware. Now, I've never been, but I can only presume this is what the Polish countryside looks like. The wasteland is a procedurally generated environment, which I'm not really a fan of. I understand that in this case it alleviates having to intricately and painstakingly design an entire bespoke open world, but you sacrifice a lot of character when you do that. The team is leveraging the process to give a bit more simplicity to it all. They really don't want you worrying about this like it's a hunk of some Ubisoft bullshit. It just currently feels very undercooked. I know we're cruising through a barren wasteland, but It's pretty goddamn barren. There are several biomes that break this up, though. You have your Mad Max salt flats, where you'll no doubt spend most of your time. I really like the muddy fields that have these apartment blocks built on stilts that you can destroy. And there's a surprisingly lush forest to tear ass through. So it has moments of interest in the environment, but it's mostly just a large, never-ending arena. All that isn't to say that it's devoid of any personality. There's tons of activity out and about, so at the very least, it's consistent, much like the music. Musically, we are treated to rockabilly surfer tunes to complement the rusted aesthetic, which I was not expecting. You probably would anticipate something in the heavy dun 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 style of music, but I give them full points for deviating from what you'd maybe expect. I guess the only genuine criticism I can levy is that there just isn't enough of it. There's only 10 tracks in the game so far, and after maybe an hour or so of playing, you'll have heard it all, and you might not have even realized it. So I hope we get more music as FUMES moves through early access. On the other side of the sound department, everything sounds great. Weapons are appropriately punchy and satisfying, while cars bounce between whizzy for smaller bodies to more guttural sounds from bigger boys. Even NPCs get a post-apocalyptic Animal Crossing speech. All of this is pretty fortunate, since games like these can devolve into an inscrutable wall of sound. FUMES does well to balance the cacophony of explosions and grinding metal in a not super obtrusive way. Overall, there's not really too much to dwell on here. Game sounds good. However, the horn leaves much to be desired. The Wasteland is littered with tons of action to get up to. Most common of these are skirmishes, both in mission and out in the wild. Through a mission, you'll be plopped into a high-speed battle as waves of gas guzzlers try to kill you. Very straightforward. You can also come across roving bands while meandering around, and you can choose to engage them at your leisure. Convoy attacks are more or less the same concept as skirmishes, but with the added caveat of trying not to destroy a cargo scrapper. There's also the inverse where you defend a scrapper from waves of enemies. Again, FUMES keeps it incredibly simple. There's very little variation in these tasks, but they don't waste your time with them. You'll be in and out of these encounters quickly, so nothing feels like it overstays its welcome. Control-wise, it feels excellent, and they're already adding improvements across the board. All the vehicles are physics-based, but there's constraints built in there so things aren't getting too abstract. Another enterprise worth looking into is a page right out of the Book of
You know, I think Police Knots is an underrated masterpiece. She breathes through her skin. It's not in English, you fucking loser.
Package delivery. What are we delivering? Well, I have no idea, but the Steam page suggests they are suspicious. These packages are all over the Wasteland, most easily collected from finishing activities, but you can also find them out in the wild. Okay, so now you have a bounty of packages, so what do we do with them now? Well, naturally, you would use them to befriend anomalies out in the wild. They reward you for your effort with customization parts, but otherwise they don't do anything. One can probably surmise these will play a role in later updates, but as of now, they're just your friends. And what kind of car game wouldn't have races? Racing is unfortunately my least favorite activity to do. Thanks to the procedural nature of the game, there are no set courses, so they feel messy and ultimately don't provide much of a challenge, but they do provide a break from the carnage. The structure of progression doesn't force you to do any activities you hate, so you can ignore the areas that might provide friction, what little there really is. Completing a specific amount of set jobs will unlock a boss fight. Now, these don't break the proverbial mold by any means. They're more or less just larger scale brawls involving a named boss figure. The biggest takeaway from these encounters is this is how you unlock the new car body types and even new weapon types, which completing any activity of any kind will always see you rewarded with them. It's randomized, so hunting a specific part might be challenging, but it's not really the point of the game. You'll naturally accumulate parts throughout your time playing. Now, while driving and shooting are the bread and butter, customization is also front and center, with a sizable but not overwhelming amount of options to choose from. You pick from a selection of body types, suspension, and finally weapons or cargo racks. And you do have a healthy arsenal to pull from. Chain guns, shotguns, rocket launchers, mine layers, even flamethrowers. Now, you can't just overload your ride with every single gun you scrap. The car bodies have specific differing weapon placements you have to adhere to. For example, the starting Cub body has only 2 spots, one for a weapon and another for a cargo rack, while the Warhorse body has a whopping 5 slots to fill, 2 for weapons, 2 for cargo, and lastly 1 that can be assigned as either. Cargo comes in small, medium, or large sizes that determine whether you can carry 2, 3, or 4 packages per slot, which if you equip your ride with all large racks can look pretty damn silly. Not to mention also make you a bit of a target. The game has no ammo management whatsoever, so honestly, having your guns blazing at every available moment isn't a bad idea. There's also no real worry about any of this affecting your weight or handling, it's just your killing power. But what does affect your handling is your suspension. Now, the presence of a stats screen would suggest this teeters on being a car PG. And I would say it is, but like in a light kind of way. Suspension is where the grandest change to your control will happen. Slapping monster truck wheels on your 98 Chevy Lumina may look virile, but you aren't going anywhere fast with those. Inversely, why not hook some tank treads up to your windowless van to really convey to the neighborhood that you are a trustworthy individual? Or maybe you want the best of both worlds. You really just have to toy around with all the combinations to find the one that speaks to you. There's no real one-size-fits-all option for stuff. Lastly, before hitting the mud, you can put a personal touch on your car. This is a powerful tool for customization, with the only limit really being your imagination. Annoyingly, they're tied to the specific body you're using, so you'll end up having to recreate your skins for every single one of them. Though if that sounds annoying or of no interest to you, you can just unlock plenty of prefab skins that you can slap on. What more can I say? It's a joy to play, even if it is repetitive and lacking in unique content, which is not an uncommon opinion, and the team is aware of that. Like I said earlier, they're already making strides to expand the game in interesting ways. It's not a terribly deep game, but it does have the makings of depth there that can certainly hold your attention. But FUMES is really meant to be played in short bursts. After a few hours with it, you'll probably have seen everything FUMES has to offer as of now. In its current state, it feels more like an expanded demo rather than a full-fledged experience, which is to be expected of an early access game. I would say if any of that concerns you, then you're probably safe to let this one marinate a bit before picking it up. It retails for a paltry $15, and I've certainly spent more on games I've spent less time on. And that's all I really got to say about FUMES for now. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being here. I guess I'm gonna go try and get out of this desert now. Come back next time for something different. Yeah, I don't know. This is a pretty big desert, though. Oh. Oh, okay. This is happening, I guess. Bye.